All right, good afternoon. We're going to try to get started, and we'll see if technically everything works. I'm Judge McBurney, and our first matter should be Ms. Campbell. I assume Ms. Campbell is seated there. She just nodded her head. I think I see her attorney, Mr. Lascala, is right there with the striped tie. And there's Mr. Abate, once again, being the stunt double for Brett Pinion. So let's figure out what we're doing today. Ms. Campbell is charged with hit and run. And on the calendar, we are set for a final plea. But let me reach out to Ms. Nelson to see if she will be joining us. All right. We'll see what happens there. So, Mr. Abate, are you familiar enough with the case from Mr. Pinion that you can let me know what the state's planning for today?
Yes, Judge. The state and the defense have been working on a negotiation for quite some time. What we entered into, obviously with Your Honor's approval at the end of this, is the state had planned to null pros or dead docket, whichever Your Honor prefers, this case based on a PTI, a virtual PTI that was entered into with Ms. Campbell, where she paid, and she's already given the cashier's check to our office to provide to the victim in this case, Mr. Claude Turner, a $5,000 restitution amount for the injuries and the medical bills that were not covered by insurance for the victim.
Okay, I think I recall we had a final plea. It was on a calendar a couple months ago, and it may have been that's what Mr. Lascala was explaining, that just a little more time and this should resolve itself. How far along are we, Mr. Lascala, with meeting the conditions? I looked in the docket. There's not a formal PTI order in place. I understand it's virtual PTI, but we still sometimes get those orders in there. And this may have been less formal than that. Where are we in the process?
I hand delivered a $5,000 cashier's check to Mr. Pinion. He has it in his file. That should wrap everything up.
Okay. So then I may have misunderstood a little bit, Mr. Abate. You were saying, in fact, Ms. Campbell has complied with the conditions, and so now the state is in a position to move to null pros the case.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And your office, Mr. Abate, will ensure that the funds get to Mr. Turner?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Ms. Rolak, is there anything from Mr. Turner's side that I ought to hear on this?
Not at this time, Judge. He did say he wanted to be on the call, but is unfortunately unavailable at this time.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's something he in the future wants to convey, you know how to find me. So I guess what we'll do upon your motion, Mr. Abate, since there's not a VPTI order in the docket, is I'll get the indictment and get a null pros stamp on it, and that will move it along. Ms. Campbell, you've been listening quietly. Anything, you have any questions about anything, or do you understand what's happening?
No, Your Honor, I understand.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Lascala, for following up in the way that you committed to. I'll take care of the null pros piece. If there's some paperwork that we need, Ms. Nelson will reach out to the state and Mr. Lascala, and we'll take it from there.
Yes, Judge. And if I could just put on the record that the victim, Mr. Turner, has spoken to our office, not only Mr. Pinion, I've actually spoke to him on a couple of occasions explaining this process and, you know, about the facts and circumstances of the case and why this negotiated agreement had come into place and the reasons behind it. So I just wanted to make sure Your Honor was aware of that and it was also on the record.
Okay. He is aware of it, and at peace because of the way he'll be made at least partially financially whole, or he gets it, it's not what he would do, but he's going along with it?
I would say the first. He gets it. He's at peace with it. He understands after our conversations the facts and circumstances of the case and some of the challenges because of his state that evening the case would have.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to skim. There was an immunity motion filed, and I was trying to work through how a hit and run was immunity. But having skimmed it, I understand why the case is sorting out the way it is.
Yes, sir.
I think that's it. If Ms. Campbell doesn't have any questions, we will go from there. Mr. Abate, you have very ably covered for Mr. Pinion for these two cases. Is he fine, just not available today? Is he not handling cases in this division anymore, or it's all part of a big transition?
He is fine. The transition is still very up in the air, so I don't know anything about the transition. But his wife actually had surgery on Friday. I think she had a pacemaker or maybe a stent put in her valve in her heart. So he's taking care of her. So I had said I had no problem covering this week for him.
Great. Well, thank you for covering, and we all wish the best for his wife to have a speedy recovery.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Judge.
you, Judge. Thank you, Adam.
See you later.
Ms. Hall, I see you've joined us. Is Mr. Marshall going to be a plea? Oh, you what? I don't know where you are.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, are you headed this way? You are headed this way. I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
So was Mr. Melnick going to be here in person? Oh, he's got 10 minutes. He's not. We'll see what happens. Okay. I can't find Ms. Nelson right now.
Oh, she's having an issue. I think remotely on her computer to help her figure it out.
Okay.
So I don't know what was going on as it was going on the last day.
Okay.
I'm sure she's gonna still plug in.
Got it. She has a new laptop. I hope it's not already broken. So Marshall is a plea. What about Antonio Williams?
No, Antonio Williams just stayed over there for
A reset? Because,
last time we were in court, he was still missing supplemental because of the investigators, the homicide investigator. He got me everything minus the one piece of evidence that we thought was gonna prove, that the thing that did was the alleged.
homicide is involved. This is a robbery by sudden snatch case.
Right, he is a homicide investigator, but he was assigned to the case.
Okay.
Because there was a shooting and
Okay,
they didn't know what was happening, so that's how they got it initially.
okay,
But, because he's a homicide officer, he's just difficult to get a hold of and communicate with, but, he finally provided the last piece of evidence on, I believe, Thursday of last week, or Friday, it was Friday when I got to the, but it's not really showing us what he saw or what
Okay.
his name is on there. So then that put us in a bad situation. We thought it was what he said is there. He thought we were gonna see that. So now I'm pulling jail policy and Mr. Franklin, we're still trying to work it out. So I put, it's more of a statement, put that pressure on the thing, try to take the final piece today. We'll probably have it worked out by next week, so that's what I was gonna ask for. Just
Okay.
A couple more days to figure it out.
All right,
So
and-
we can get that video.
And the other two are Ms. Hodges.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and I think the last one, the guy it's a bench warrant, so that'll be easy. Okay. I will come back out in a few minutes when Mr. Melnick either shows up or on the screen. But I'll try to be back before then.
Just seemed to take a little extra longer. Where's Ms. Nelson? Testing 1 2 1 2. I'm sure when I get the echo. I said, if everybody's on Zoom, nobody's going to be in the courtroom. You can turn off these microphones.
Ms. Hall, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
How you doing?
I can hear you.
Good. So I was going to ask you about that Lysandra Spikes case. I sent you an email last week. Her name is Lysandra Spikes. It's on for the 22nd. I'll just send you another email.
I just need to look at the case.
Yeah. It's the one she cut a woman with a razor blade. The disc that Mary Beth provided to me that was supposed to have medical records on it didn't have any medical records on it. So I think we'll probably want to get that before her final plea.
You guys are live.
I'm sorry, would you say that again?
You guys are live.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, so I'll send you an email. Okay. Oops.
Hall, did you have to mute just then to stop the echo? Okay. And you can work your microphone.
Mr. Melnick's on. And Ms. Nelson's on. Excellent. We'll have to work on the echo.
Yes. Yours is on, I turned on the laptop.
Oh, you have a laptop on. Okay. And there's 1D. Yep, I know what to do.
And we're live streaming. Mr. Melnick's drinking coffee. All right, let's see if we can get going. We're missing Mr. Marshall.
Judge, I have sent him the instructions for logging on. And he told me he was having some difficulty with it. He and I literally just got off the phone right before you took the bench.
Okay.
So I will text him right now and see if he's still having difficulty with it. I don't know if he needs to be let it. That might be him right there.
A51.
No.
Okay. Any idea who that is?
No.
Okay. Mr. Franklin. All right, well, why don't you keep working with Mr. Marshall, and we'll see if now that Mr. Franklin's on, maybe we can talk about the Antonio Williams case. And then he'll be done with his stuff a little early. Other when they're mystery tricks. Okay. Mr. Franklin, you there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, we are trying to get Mr. Melnick's client to connect. And in the meantime, I thought we could talk about Antonio Williams if you don't mind doing that about 15 minutes early.
No, that's not a problem.
Okay. I had asked Ms. Hall what was happening with her two cases that were still left. One, Mr. Marshall's case, is supposed to be a plea. We can get Mr. Marshall. And then she was telling me with Mr. Williams, I guess there's still some discovery she's trying to get you. But why don't we talk a little bit? Is Mr. Williams going to be joining us on the call, or because of the conversations you had with Ms. Hall, he was not?
I sent him the link. We text back and forth. So I thought he was going to join in, but based on the conversations me and Ms. Hall have had, I asked that we just go ahead and address it now.
That's fine. If he dials in at 2:10, I'll tell him thank you for doing so, and that we talked about what we needed to talk about. Trying to figure out who K51 is. Ms. Rolak, do you have any idea if that's someone on the victim side?
I don't believe so, Judge.
Okay.
The would-be victim in this case is a cross defendant, so I don't think Ms. Rolak would have had contact with because he's a defendant.
Got it. I was trying to figure out why it lists in the notes for Mr. Williams' case that there's a co-defendant, but it's a different indictment. Is that Christian Evelyn?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't need to worry about that right now. So, Ms. Hall, why don't you tell me more specifically what it is you're trying to get from law enforcement so we can make a plan here?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm actually done getting the supplemental evidence from law enforcement. We received the last piece of evidence on last Thursday, which I provided to defense counsel. Because the evidence didn't show exactly what the officer said his perception of it was, I now need to get more evidence, as in me and Mr. Franklin talked about jail calls that I knew were there, but I thought the videos were gonna be enough. Now that it is not as clear as we thought it would be, I wanna provide those jail calls to Ms. Franklin, and we're gonna continue negotiating based on everything that we have now. So I was gonna ask for a reset just for next week. We really could have got it done today, but we just, we've been in court, so, we only need like maybe a day or two to continue talking about it.
Would the video, if it had in it what you were led to believe was going to be in it, have been helpful to the state or helpful to the defense?
It would have been helpful for the defense, I think, to resolve the case. It would have been helpful for the state proving the case.
Right, so the video, according to a detective or someone, the video supposedly showed Mr. Williams grabbing someone's purse. And now you've seen the video and it shows an arm grabbing the purse, or it shows a bus. It doesn't show what you were led to believe it would show.
Well, it's not, he told me that it wasn't people that you could see, that it was more like shadows, I guess.
Okay.
So when we see it, it's like we're looking through a mirror that's showing them, and it's black bodies. If everyone has on black, then you see everyone around. So it's not as clear cut as I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Or as I represented to Mr. Franklin that it was going to be. It's more so you have to follow the pieces and figure it out. And so because of that, I have heard jail calls that I think were in this case, but since I didn't provide the additional before the videos, now I need to provide that, which I should have done, but I thought that everything would be on this video, so it's not.
How long will it take you to get the jail calls to Mr. Franklin?
Probably today. I was working on it during the break.
You already have it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Mr. Franklin, how much time do you need after you get the jail calls? Is Mr. Williams on bond?
Yes, he's on bond and he resides in, I believe it's Wisconsin. He resides in another state in that part of the country. I forget which state.
Okay, so you talk to him on the phone. You guys don't meet. Okay, so
Correct.
assuming you get the jail calls today or tomorrow, how much time do you need to chat with Mr. Williams about how this case is resolving?
Once I have the phone calls, it's probably just a conversation, relaying what I was told. From my understanding and speaking with Ms. Hall, she's gonna just send the calls that she believes to be pertinent. I don't think this is like a dump of all the phone calls when he was in custody. I think it's supposed to be a couple of select phone calls, from my understanding. So
keep going.
If I were to get him today, I would probably listen to him today and give him a call today. And then hop back on the horn with Ms. Hall and, convey what Mr. Williams' thoughts are.
Okay, so what's the right next stop for this? Today is not the final plea. I don't know that we can put it on the calendar next week just because those calendars have been published. There are calendars next week. So should I just get with Ms. Nelson and try to have Mr. Williams on the next available final plea?
Yeah, the next the next final plea that's not yet been published would make the most sense, I believe.
Okay, does that work for you, Ms. Hall?
It does, Your Honor, and if possible, I believe our courtroom has the cross-defendant case. Is there a way we can? I don't know if we can plead arraignment. I don't think we have. But I want to see.
Let me look it up.
Okay.
There are two, it's Judge Krause. There's a Christian Todd and a Christian Evelyn, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and that is with Judge Krause. If there's a reason why you think things ought to be consolidated, I'm sure Judge Krause would never say no to transferring the case, but I would only want it if it's been resolved, not because then it'll be a headache over here.
Right.
The charges sound a whole lot more serious on the other side.
They are serious. They're more serious than this, but everything came from this, and yes, and so I'll talk to Ms. McCauley about it today and resolve it before I tell you to pull that case. But I feel like once we resolve this case, that case will resolve.
Okay, and again, Judge Krause and I will go well together. So if it makes sense for the Christian folks to come over here, Evelyn and whatever the other name was, then we can do that.
Okay.
And same in the other direction, if it makes sense to have Mr. Williams go there, but it sounds like you and Mr. Franklin are close to resolving this. So I'm just looking at so Mr. Williams is the alleged victim in this case with Judge Krause, that Evelyn and Todd pointed a gun at Mr. Williams. Okay, I'm sure it's a great story. Today is not the day I'll get to hear it. Okay, so we'll get this on the next available final plea calendar, one that has yet to be published. And in the meantime, Ms. Hall, if it makes sense for Evelyn and Todd's case to come over here, great. They have private counsel, so that in some ways that's a cleaner transition. It's not that Mr. Franklin couldn't take the case, but we don't have a conflict issue. You're not making work for Ms. Snyder.
Okay,
So, okay.
thank you.
All right, just keep us posted.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, Mr. Melnick, K51 went away, whatever K51 was. It was like a horse trailer or something.
Yeah.
Judge,
Yeah.
that was actually the victim from the previous case. He didn't realize that we had concluded.
Mhm.
Uh-oh, which case was that?
The Julia Campbell.
Oh, that's the guy who was the victim of the hit and run.
Yes,
Okay, you let him know what was going on? That's Mr. Turner.
I did.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so what's the plan, Mr. Melnick?
Judge, so my client said that he was having some technical issues. When you were dealing with Mr. Franklin's case, I got on the phone with him and he said he was trying to reload the Zoom app onto his phone. If he's not able to do that, obviously I don't mind coming down there personally and just having him meet me in your courtroom. This is a case not to, try to predetermine exactly what's going to happen, but it's a straight probation offer. It's something that Ms. Hall and I have negotiated. I've communicated the offer to Mr. Marshall, and he is going to accept it. I don't see him on here yet. I can try to communicate it with him again real quick here. But like I said, I don't mind coming down there and just having him meet me in your courtroom if we want to deal with it today, or however you want to deal with it.
Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's flexibility. My thought would be to have him try a little bit more to make it work. I have a hard stop today of, when is this conference call? At 3:30, I have to be on a exciting Zoom call about pattern jury instructions. So I gotta be done by 3:30. We have 3 cases left, including Mr. Marshall's, but one of them is a bench warrant, so that's easy. And then there's one with Ms. Snyder. What's happening as far as? Oh, okay, and that's Ms. Hodge. Wow, not a bad no cross. Okay. Okay, I'll let the state explain what happened. Are you expecting is it Mr. Bass?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so we'll want to wait for him, and I mean, that's for 2:30, no one's late yet. So, Mr. Melnick, if the state's willing to keep the offer open, then worst case scenario, we should just do it on one of our next days that works for you and Ms. Hall.
Okay.
Tomorrow. So Thursday, we're around a lot. We've got some things going on.
I've got things with you on Thursday, as a matter of fact, in the afternoon. I have a plea with you Thursday afternoon. So why don't are you still going to be there for a little while? You still have something else to take up?
I'm here till 3:30, and then Saturday I'm here way past 3:30, but just not for Mr. Marshall.
So if we can get it dealt with today, I'm going to try to contact him again right now.
Okay.
But if not, then yeah, we can just deal with it on Thursday, and I'll just have him come in personally to deal with it.
So scratch this itch for me. What the heck is count 2 in his case? What is holding a wireless device for voice communication?
So that was the purpose of the stop. He was holding a cell phone or driving with a cell phone.
Oh, he was not a hands-free driver.
Mhm.
Okay, I hadn't been able to find it yet in the code book. I had never seen it. So it's sort of like no seatbelt. Officer saw him yapping on his phone, and then there was marijuana in it as well. Interesting.
Yep.
Try to coincide both things.
Holding a wireless device for voice communication. Okay, great. So yeah, Mr. Melnick, why don't you try connecting with Mr. Marshall?
I will.
We will sit tight for either you or Ms. Hodge, whoever gets on first, we'll take care of it.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
So why are they both crossing a,
It's essentially, child punishment happened in 2015. The daughter doesn't want to prosecute because she said it didn't happen as it was alleged in the report.
and part of the punishment was strangling?
That's what.
And that's the allegation. Okay. So this is parent-child. Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Hey, Ms. Hodge.
Hi.
My screen, I was looking at my screen, but I didn't have Zoom up, and then all of a sudden there was this voice. Is that Mr. Bass? Great, take your time. We're gonna be able to get to your case a little early, Ms. Hodge.
Yes, Ms. Rolak told me, and I just sent Attorney Snyder a text message. So I
Okay,
think she's coming to the courtroom.
she was here, she just went outside. Mr. Bass just walked in, so it all happened at once. You said, hey.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Bass walked in, so we have everyone. I think we need to have the conversation now about Mr. Bass's case. And Ms. Snyder may have stolen your thunder a little bit, but I was just asking for planning purposes what was happening with the case. So I will let you get us started, Ms. Hodge, for the final plea in Mr. Bass's case.
Okay. Your Honor, the state is going to null pros this case.
Okay. Any particular reason that you want to share?
Well, it's a 5-year-old case. The victim is his daughter. I was not able to secure all the needed evidence, and also in speaking with the victim, she gave some mitigating circumstances of the incident that happened. She is not interested in assisting the state in prosecuting the case. She is now an adult, and she and her father have a good relationship. My other concern was that there were no other minor children in the home, and there are not.
Okay. Does Mr. Bass's adult daughter still live at home, or she lives?
She does not.
She does not. Okay, then this seems like an understandable outcome. Ms. Snyder, anything you want to add?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bass, do you have any questions about what Ms. Hodge just stated? Were you able to hear it?
Yes, it's been dismissed.
She did say that. She said a bunch of other things as well, but.
Yeah, I heard.
Okay, but the most important part, I assume from your perspective, would be the dismissed part. Okay. Then I will get the indictment in your case and put a little stamp on it that says dismissed. I think I'm the one who signs it, and that'll be that. You may want to get a copy of that later. It won't be available today, but Ms. Snyder can help you get a copy of that if you need it. But you shouldn't have to come back to court anymore on this case. All right, staying healthy? Good, all right. Is that your daughter?
Yes.
Okay. You and your dad getting along okay?
Yes, you're my best friend. I mean, this one's
Well, we're dealing with it now. You live in a different place from your dad, or you guys live in the same place? You stay with your dad? Do you have any younger brothers or sisters?
One sister, my and the older sister.
Do your little sisters live in the house with you all?
My mom has 2 daughters. My dad has me.
Yeah, I have several kids.
From my mom's side.
I have little kids. And I have one.
Okay. So there's little kids living in your house now?
Yes.
How many? How old are they?
3 and 5.
3 and 5. Did you know that, Ms. Hodge?
I'm sorry, what did she say, Your Honor? I couldn't hear.
I was just talking, we were just chatting, and Mr. Bass is here, and his daughter is here. Is your last name Bass also? Victoria Bass is here, and I just asked how things were going. And she indicated, 1, she does still live with her father, and 2, there is a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old in the household as well. They're children of Mr. Bass, different relationship from the mother of Victoria Bass. So,
I was not aware of that, Your Honor, because that's not what she told me when I spoke with her. She told me that she no longer lived with her father and there were no minor children in the home.
No, she called me. I wasn't living at the time. I had my own apartment.
Oh.
Moved back with my best friend. I moved back with my
okay, when did you move back?
My sister too. My dad was out there.
When did you move back? Okay, so Victoria Bass is saying she did indeed live on her own for a while, living with a friend, but she's been back with her dad for a few months now.
Since when?
She said February,
It's been
before COVID.
well, yeah, COVID started in March.
It did?
Yeah, it's like
She's saying a little before COVID, she thinks January or February of this year. I'm not making waves, I was curious and wanted, of course, you to hear what I heard since I was talking to Ms. Snyder's client. So you can add that to the file.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Don't go anywhere, Ms. Hodge, because you've got the next position as well. And Mr. Franklin is on the call. He'll appear in a minute. There's Mr. Franklin. So this is Randy Manuel, and we had a final plea date a couple months ago. Mr. Manuel was not present, but we thought maybe we had the wrong address, or there were questions about notice. So we took extra care to provide notice to the address of record. And my understanding is that no one has seen or heard from Mr. Manuel. Is that right, Mr. Franklin? You're on mute.
That's correct.
Okay. So we're not able to hold out the final plea. Ms. Hodge, any requests you've got in Mr. Manuel's case?
Yes, Your Honor. We would request that a bench warrant is issued.
Okay. This is a 2018 case, so it's oldish. With COVID, it's less remarkable that it's a 2018 case. Is the incident kind of close in time to the indictment, or is the incident from 2013, but there just wasn't an outcry for a while, or do you have any sense of how old the underlying allegations are?
Let me look that up really quickly, Your Honor. I believe it's fairly close to the incident, to the indictment date, but
The
I can't
incident
be sure.
was 2015. It took 3 years to indict.
Okay. But Mr. Manuel, I'm asking only to make sure, like we've seen Mr. Manuel, it's not a direct indictment, and he's never been found. At some
No, yeah, we've had Mr. Manuel in court several times before. His girlfriend's before. I used to have pretty good contact with her. His girlfriend would call me frequently to check in on court dates. So I'm more inclined to believe that because of COVID and they lived in Four Seasons apartments. I'm inclined to believe that my lack of phone contact is related to finances more so than him just saying forget court.
Okay. Well, I'll sign the bench warrant as always, Mr. Franklin. If Mr. Manuel surfaces in your life and you want to lock him in, we can work through it. That's great. We can do that. But if he has moved on to other things, then I think bench warrant's appropriate. They're serious charges. They are a little older, but you both have reassured me that it's not a situation where Mr. Manuel was arrested in 2015, got a bond, and then had no idea 3 years later the case was indicted. It sounds like he was aware it was an indictment. He's met Mr. Franklin, and he met Judge Reeder, but now we're having a little trouble tracking that. So we will not handle the final plea today for Mr. Manuel. Anything else, Ms. Hodge, on his case?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Franklin?
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you both.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming in for that. So that leaves Mr. Marshall. Any update? Mr. Marshall's coming in. Oh,
Marshall, I'm going to 10 minutes away. He's on the
oh, look at that. There's the check. He's just coming on in. Okay. We got done.
Judge, he and I got off the phone at 10 minutes after 2, and he said he was about 10 or 15 minutes away. Probably gonna take him a little time to get parked, but I know you said you have a hard stop at 3:30. Is that right?
Yes, so we're good to go.
I think as long as he gets there relatively soon, we should be fine. It's not going to be a difficult plea.
Okay. So you say.
Yeah. I at least need to plant the seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've still got my audio on. And if y'all just want to let me know when he gets there, I'm ready to go.
Will do.
Thank you.
You just mean a jury room? Okay.
They also wanted to let you know that there's actually still working on it. She's still here, she's listening, but they're trying to download the drive.
Okay, how's she hearing this?
I think she's on there.
Oh, she's probably on with her phone, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's something on it with her name on it. Okay, thank you. you Mr. Marshall?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
All right.
You're about to come up to the table right there, but let me get everyone we need for your case. One. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll get, and Mr. Melnick is just unblocked the video. There we go.
Sorry for being late, y'all.
It's okay. Mr. Melnick said you were having technical difficulties with the phone, and then you wisely were not using your cell phone in your hand while you were driving.
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. All right. Forte, you ready?
Good, Judge.
Let's get started. This is position 15 on our calendar today. Mr. Marshall, if you don't mind coming up to the podium, that way you can see Mr. Melnick, he can see you, and we'll be able to hear you real good. Right there, just right in front of the microphone. And then you see that screen right there? You see your lawyer?
Yes, sir.
He just waved. Good. And he saw you. Excellent. All right. So this is 20 SC 174517, State versus John Marshall. Mr. Marshall is here in court. His lawyer, Mr. Melnick, is connected by way of our Zoom video conference. And the prosecutor, Ms. Hall, is seated to Mr. Marshall's right. Mr. Marshall, before we can go forward with your plea, I need to make sure that you are comfortable proceeding with Mr. Melnick connected only remotely. He's not right there by your side. Are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
If anything comes up during the course of our conversation that prompts you to want to talk with Mr. Melnick in private, just let me know. We'll all leave the room. And you guys can have, we'll call a breakout room where it's just two of you talking. I don't think that's going to happen. This doesn't sound like it's a real complicated situation.
Yes.
But it's your plea, it's not mine. If you feel like you want to have a private conversation with Mr. Melnick, like you could easily do if he was here, we'll accommodate, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. You got to make sure when you're answering anyone's questions out loud, because the court reporter has to write down the spoken word, not the, and then Mr. Marshall gave a high five or whatever.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, great. Ms. Hall is about to put you under oath. Once you're under oath, it's important that you answer all questions truthfully and completely. It's also very important that you let us know if you have any questions so that I can try to answer them, or maybe a reason for you and Mr. Melnick to have a private conversation. Will you do that?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Hall?
Thank you. Mr. Marshall, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give in the matter current before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
You may over here. Please state your true, correct, and legal name.
John Albert Marshall, Jr.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, ma'am.
Is there any medication that you normally take that you have not been given today?
No, ma'am.
How old are you and how far have you gone in school?
51. I went to college 2 years.
Are you able to read, write, and understand English language?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have, do you understand that you have been charged with possession of marijuana, holding a wireless device for voice communication, and expired license?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to those charges?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney, Mr. Melnick, about all the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this indictment, including any potential defenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss this case with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with his services?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
I did.
Do you waive any and all defects in the indictment, including with respect to the defendant's name?
Yes, I did.
Do you also waive moving forward on a copy of the indictment?
Yeah.
Mr. Marshall, have you been arrested on these charges?
Yes, ma'am.
The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants that are related to these charges. Do you or your attorney know of any outstanding warrants related to these charges?
No outstanding warrants.
Has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for the charges that you're pleading to?
Yes, ma'am.
The minimum maximum sentence for holding a wireless device for voice communication and expired license are both 12 months to serve, and the minimum maximum for possession of marijuana is 1 to 5 years to serve.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means the state will recommend to the court a sentence of 4 years probation for possession of marijuana and 12 months probation for the 2 remaining misdemeanors, holding a wireless device for voice communication and expired license?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that the court, I'm sorry, for the court does not have to accept that recommendation, the court can sentence you to the maximum on each of these charges and can run those sentences consecutively or one after another. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand this is a guilty plea, which is permanently recorded on your criminal history?
Yes.
Do you understand this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you're currently on probation or parole, your probation or parole may be revoked based on you entering a guilty plea statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you're not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand if you're not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just as a conviction at trial would, and this is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect your right to vote, your right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or use a firearm in a crime, you will be guilty of a felony which may carry a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you have the right to a trial by jury, the right to speak, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the following rights: the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to the assistance of counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel, the right to the presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, promised, or threatened you to get you to enter a guilty plea today?
No, ma'am.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a guilty plea because you're in fact guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the charges of possession of marijuana, holding a wireless device for voice communication, and expired license in indictment number 20 SC 174517?
Guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given in full knowledge of the charges against you?
Freely.
It is freely and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you understand that you only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you only have 12 months from today for a misdemeanor charge and 4 years from today for a felony charge to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Your Honor, the state is aware of 6 prior convictions by the defendant dating back to 87. The most recent one is a possession of marijuana with the intent to distribute conviction from March the 8th, 2016. He is still on active probation for the case, that is 15 SC 138474. He has 5 months and 2 days remaining. And had this case proceeded to trial, the state would have proven that on January the 11th of 2020, at I-20 eastbound and Capitol Avenue, officers pulled over the defendant's vehicle after observing the vehicle holding a cell phone while driving a blue Nissan Altima. The defendant was also driving with an expired license and had expired driver's license and had an active warrant. During the inventory of the vehicle, the officers were able to locate marijuana inside the vehicle. When it was tested, the amount came back to be 253 grams of marijuana, around 8 ounces.
Okay.
That is all in the state.
And it's charged as simple possession, not possession with intent.
Yes, I just made a call to the officers. They didn't find any, they said they didn't find any bags or scales or any other thing, and they just didn't charge it because of just because of the amount.
Okay.
So, yes.
Got it. I'm just looking at the repeat offender notice. So a pretty serious case back in '86 in DeKalb, and then a bunch of drug cases since then. And only the 2015 cases still open. Ms. Crawford, you still there? You're there. How are you?
I'm fine, Judge. How are you?
I'm okay. Thanks for hanging in there. Do you have anything different in terms of criminal history for Mr. Marshall?
Nothing different. He does have an open active probation case, a 15 SC 138474 case, where he does have 5 months and 2 days remaining on probation.
Okay, great. Thank you for confirming.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Melnick.
Good afternoon, Judge. Mr. Marshall is 51 years of age. He has had gainful employment. I think it's been a little spotty since coronavirus, but he usually works security for entertainers and for nightclubs and that kind of thing. I was just actually looking up his criminal history because I wasn't sure if it would become an issue or not. The 15 case was assigned to Judge Millender, and they've already had a revocation hearing on that, and he was sentenced to 60 days to serve as a result of the arrest on this case right here. And then I looked up his 86 case from DeKalb County, and he was charged with rape in that case, but what he ended up entering a plea to was a 6-year probated sentence on false imprisonment. Just looking at the case, it appeared that there were multiple defendants that were charged in that case, and Mr. Marshall got a straight probation sentence. You're shaking your head no, Mr. Marshall. Did I get something wrong there?
No, I back then that would kind of mess me up from going to play college ball. You know,
I got
I was caught up with some guys. I didn't have nothing to do with that case.
right. Well, that is what ended up happening. I know it's a long time ago. I was still in high school in 1986, but that's what the procedural history shows on DeKalb County's website. Just so you know that he got 6 years probation on a false imprisonment case. And so, Your Honor, obviously this is a relatively, there's not a lot to this case. It was a traffic stop. There was no basis for me to go forward on any motion to suppress on this case based on my view of what happened. And this is a negotiated plea. We'd ask that you accept it.
Okay. And it looks like you served 60 days from the day of your arrest,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Marshall, for the revocation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just looking at that order. So you got pulled over because you were on the phone, bad tag, or is your license expired? It's expired license. They find the marijuana. You go into custody, and you're in for 2 months because you got revoked on your old marijuana.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Where do you work security when you are working security?
Kind of hard. Now they say I can't fly. I usually fly. I work with Mike Epps. I've been working with him probably about 24 years. So I usually travel, but like the last few shows, they were like local, like Macon, Augusta, Savannah. So like I hadn't been working them but the local shows.
And you can't fly because you're on probation or you
Yes,
can't fly
yes.
because of public health?
No, they told me I couldn't fly, I was on probation.
I don't know about the flying part, you're not supposed to leave the state, whether you fly or take a bicycle, you're supposed to stay in Georgia. That's a pretty standard condition. That said, if you can verify that you're leaving the state for business reasons,
Yes,
legitimate business reasons,
yes.
you can always ask probation, they can ask the judge,
Yeah.
and you can get permission,
Okay,
but you need to do that in advance. But if
Okay.
you know that F's got an event
Yeah.
in Chicago
Yeah.
and you're gonna work for him there, and there's paperwork that can
Yeah.
show it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't hurt for you to check with probation, because they'll check with me. And if it's legit and it's putting clean money in your
Yeah.
pocket,
Yeah.
you don't get pulled over for that.
yes.
Okay.
I used to get, when I was on probation first, they used to give me a permit to fly.
Yeah.
You know, so I never had a problem with it. But
Okay.
one time we did a show and I stayed maybe a week too long. And when I got back, they put a warrant on me and locked me up.
Yeah, don't stay a week too
Yeah,
long.
I won't. It was just something that happened. I didn't know they were gonna put a warrant on me.
That's what happens, now you know. Okay. Well, I find there's a factual basis for your case. I gotta tell you, this is the first case I've had that started because someone was using a cell phone while driving. We all have to look up the statute and know exactly what it meant. Actually, not the right statute cited in the indictment, but I think Mr. Melnick has waived any defect, so we can go forward with that. And that's not the most serious charge, that's why the police moved it over. But I do find a factual basis for your plea. And I find that your plea is knowing and voluntary. Knowing means that you've understood the things we've talked about. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions about anything?
No, sir.
Okay, voluntary, you know what that means. No one's forcing you to enter this plea, but you've decided after talking with your lawyer that this is the right way to move forward, is to enter this plea. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'm gonna accept your plea. I'm gonna sentence you pursuant to what's called the Probation Options Management Act.
Yes.
And what that means is that if you have a technical violation of your probation, say you left the state when you weren't supposed to, it's probably something you and probation would work out.
Yes.
They might take out a warrant, but they deal with that. You
Yeah.
don't have to come back in front of the judge. If you catch new charges, that'll come back to me and we'll work through what's gonna happen with your 4 years of probation. And in terms of a sentence, I'll go along with the recommendation. When I heard your criminal history, you keep getting caught with maybe more marijuana than you should have, which of course in Georgia is 0 marijuana. It made me think maybe you needed to do a few months, but your reputation took care of that. There's no point in sending you back.
Yes.
I'm guessing 2 months of Rice Street wasn't what you needed at age 51. So let's stay out of there and just stay away from the marijuana. Just be the good security you are. Have you done other work before, or it's been security and selling marijuana?
I coach and I was mentoring kids. You know, I got a platform in DeKalb County for mentoring kids. I used to go speak in juveniles. I spoke in a couple of prisons. Spoke in a couple of them schools with the bad kids. Spoke in a couple of them.
The schools with the bad kids.
Yeah. Alternative school. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah. But I could have to. Yeah, I do barber.
You do a little bit of everything. Do you have family in the Atlanta area?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Kids?
5 kids.
5 kids.
7 grandchildren.
How young is the youngest kid?
20.
Okay, so they're sort of taking care of
Yes,
themselves.
yes.
All right, good. All right, well, on count 1, I'm gonna sentence you to 4 years. I'll probate that. Counts 2 and 3 will be 12 months each. Those will be probated as well. They'll all run concurrently with each other. And do you have any conditions of probation that you wanted to have added, Ms. Hall? Okay. Well, the basic condition is don't violate the law. I don't have to say that one. That happens, you get pulled over, you got marijuana in your car. I get to do the revocation this time, and I am confident that Ms. Hall will remind me that Judge Millender revoked 60 days last time when you got caught again. So it only goes up from there. I don't say that so I can sound tough, just so you know, just
I
sort of
understand.
it's what's going to happen. And as you get older, each one of those weeks in jail hurts more. you'll explore other opportunities. So that'll be your sentence. The one thing I think that is left is talking about signing the indictment. Do you have anything else, Ms. Hall?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Melnick, anything else for Mr. Marshall?
No, that's all, Your Honor.
All right, you had promised a simple plea. Mr. Marshall has not made this complicated. Mr. Marshall, normally you'd sign your indictment indicating you're pleading guilty. Ms. Hall and Mr. Melnick would as well. Do you authorize me to sign the indictment? So we don't have to
Yes,
pass
sir.
paper
Yes, sir.
around?
Yes, sir.
I'll do that for you. Mr. Melnick? May I
Yes.
sign?
Yes.
And Ms. Hall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I think that completes not only Mr. Marshall's case, but the calendar. It's a very productive calendar. Oh, we're not quite done. I always forget poor Ms. Crawford, who's patient, answers questions when she's asked. She needs to talk to you a little bit about probation. She
Yeah.
works with probation. She's not going to be your probation officer, but she's going to want to get some address information from you. She's going to give you some reporting instructions.
Yes.
So spend a few minutes interacting with Ms. Crawford.
Yes.
Hey, Mr. Marshall, I'm Ms. Crawford from probation. I need to get an address from you.
300 Green Haven, apartment 321, Atlanta, Georgia, 30317.
Are you in Fulton County?
Yes, ma'am. Atlanta, no, I don't, you know, they counted at Fulton. I'm in Atlanta, zone 6.
I'll look it up. I've got the zip code. I'm pretty sure it's Fulton and not the
Yeah,
cap.
it's not the cab.
Okay, it's Fulton.
Yeah, it's Fulton,
That's the
Fulton.
only other option.
Okay, do you have a telephone number?
Yes, ma'am. 678-592-49